Hello. In today's program, Colors of Asia, the unique beauty of jewelry created by the masters of Azerbaijan and Uzbekistan. Creativity of Alexander Mitrofansky, artist and jeweler.
Недавно я прочитал, что украшения как таковые...
I recently read that jewelry originates from the early eras of the development of mankind, although so far no one knows exactly when the first of them appeared. However, it was man who began to use jewelry first. They wore them as amulets and charms, and thus protected themselves from evil spirits. From the decorations, it was also possible to understand who in the tribe was the leader, hunter, or warrior. But the first jewelry appeared about 5,000 years ago and remained in this world until today without losing its popularity. By the way, in the East, jewelry is especially loved and appreciated, and it's no coincidence because any such product is beautiful and elegant. This is prestige and good mood. Therefore, right now we will go to Tashkent, where a lot of those who know how to create this beauty are treated with special trepidation.
Очень много тех людей, которые умеют создавать эту красоту.
The jewelry art of Uzbekistan has Asian roots. The manufacturing technology and traditions of craftsmen of this large region were formed over many centuries and constantly developed due to the influence of various cultural ties. If you look at historical sources, you can read that the skill of jewelers on this land reached a high level in the late Middle Ages. After that, it continued to improve and attract increasing attention from overseas merchants. Uzbek jewelry works are usually a unique synthesis of various materials, precious and completely unusual, like wood, polymers. At the same time, they may include painting and graphics. Women's jewelry was especially diverse, mostly made of gold and silver, less often of brass, copper, bronze, and tin, but necessarily using precious, semi-precious stones and colored glass. Although it must be admitted that the most favorite metal of Uzbek jewelers is silver. A variety of techniques are used to work with it: engraving, casting, carving, blackening, filigrees, and granulation. And stones such as turquoise, carnelian, coral, and pearls are most often used for finishing and decoration. In many decorations of Uzbek jewelers, you can see drawings of plants, leaves, various fruits and grain. Images of birds, fish, snakes can often be seen, and that has its own brand mark. In other words, nature itself inspires and tells jewelers how to create jewelry. There is another field of application of this art. Daggers and knives with curved handles were often decorated with stamping and engraved precious metal, and in ancient times, such an order could be requested only from the eminent and especially talented master. Nowadays, jewelry art in Uzbekistan adheres to established traditions. At the same time, it continues to improve, develop, and expand its borders. And all this thanks to globalization. Opportunities to get acquainted, communicate, exchange experience with jewelers from other countries, and show their works to a much greater number of people around the world. To reveal the hidden decorative possibilities of the material to make it speak in color, shape, pattern, this is the modern direction of jewelry art, in which not only the preciousness of the material is important, but also its artistic properties, which give rise to a new flexible image. It must be admitted that the profession of a jeweler is quite in demand in Uzbekistan, and this despite the fact that it's quite complicated, because a modern jeweler must be both an artist and a craftsman. He should not only be able to create jewelry designs, but also bring these ideas to life. One of such jewelers is Dmitry Peryanko. He has been in his profession for more than 10 years. He says that he began to deal with this matter almost by accident. That is, once a friend asked him to help establish a business, well, Dmitry responded to this request. Everything went on from there. It all started with the production of some badges, and gradually it grew into a company that manufactured various jewelry made of precious metals and stones. When asked if he remembers his first work, Dmitry answered this way. My first work was an engagement ring, but it was not a simple engagement ring, but a complex one. It was made of two metals with a patch. I mean, the base was yellow and the lining was of white gold. There was also an engraving. Honestly, I was able to do it from the third attempt, but I remember that the client was very satisfied. Dmitry himself was also pleased, because it's so nice when you understand that you spent time well and managed to surprise someone with your skill. That means that you have talent. That means that you have creativity and prospects. Since then, a lot of time has passed, and today Dmitry not only boldly calls himself a professional in his field, but also considers this activity the meaning of his whole life. Jewelry is a major part of my life, my being. I spend most of my time at work right now, even more than at home. That's why all my thoughts are connected to it. To become a good craftsman, you just need a desire and perseverance. In the process of communicating with Dmitry, the question involuntarily arose. How much precious raw materials pass through his hands? And here's his answer.
Ну, я могу предположить, что больше 100 килограмм через мои руки прошло.
I can assume that more than 100 kilograms of gold and silver passed through my hands.
Это, наверное, и золото, и серебро.
According to the jeweler, he does not have to stand still in every sense of this expression. Work is in a full swing because orders are being received, people want to wear something unusual, not like everyone else. Accordingly, the brain strains and makes you invent constantly. This means he needs to move forward. This means he's a creator and not just a craftsman. Moreover, the competition in this industry is now quite high.
Азиатский регион, он богат мастерами. У нас очень сильная конкуренция.
There are many talented craftsmen in Asian region. We have very strong competition, a lot of jewelers, luxury jewelers. It's very difficult to compete with them. We always learn because each product is something new. We do not immediately begin to manufacture the work. It takes time to discuss, to think about how to do it right, what to do, what is needed for this. And after that, you sit down and try to do something. And this process can be called a real creativity. If a person will be happy to wear our jewelry, this is a very strong moral incentive for us.
Это очень сильный моральный стимул для нас.
Now, not many people know that in the USSR, Azerbaijan was one of the main manufacturers of jewelry. The main one was the Baku Jewelry Factory, the annual supply of which amounted to more than 4 tons of gold and 30,000 carats as a raw material. It was at this factory that the only case workshop in the former Union was built, the equipment for which was imported from Italy. And this was not the only enterprise in this republic. At that time, in addition to high-grade jewelry factories in Azerbaijan, the workshops of private jewelers also developed. Their manual work has always been in great demand. And today, Azerbaijan sets the tone in this industry, continuing the traditions of its predecessors and bringing up a new young generation of jewelers. At all times, precious metals and stones have been the weakness of many, especially women. And the representatives of the fairer sex of Azerbaijan are not an exception in this regard. Like all Eastern women, they're madly in love with jewelry. For some, this is a way to emphasize their beauty, for others, a material wealth. In general, many Azerbaijani families have a tradition of putting gold and diamonds for a rainy day, and it continues to this day. Maybe that's why the jeweler's profession is so honorable here, and the number of specialized stores is almost difficult to count. Please meet Togrul Yunusov, a young jeweler who followed in the footsteps of his father and continues the traditions of his ancestors. He is one of many representatives of his profession in Azerbaijan who work tirelessly, devote himself to art, and thereby give people a good mood. According to him, his main clients are women. Therefore, he produces more products specifically for them. Gold jewelry with diamonds is especially popular among Azerbaijani women. In the past, it was considered fashionable to wear jewelry with large stones. Nowadays, a different trend is observed. Massiveness is not quite a priority. Clients prefer small stones. And all this, of course, is taken into account by the masters who create the jewelry. Well, as for diversity, each jeweler tries to create different, interesting, and beautiful products. And it's very important to satisfy the needs of each client, to give him a piece of joy and happiness. Orders are formed according to the financial capabilities of customers. It doesn't matter which country the raw materials are used from. For example, the same gold. Everyone chooses the material he or she can afford. And if we make it just like that without orders, then we take into account the requirements of the market. Sometimes customers do not look at the highest or lowest standard. They choose jewelry according to its attractiveness. And attractiveness can be reached by giving one or another decoration an original and special shape, to use any precious metal or stone in a professional and stylish manner, which is called precious because it retains quality and shine for centuries. Togrul Yunusov does not hide that nowadays it's not easy to meet the needs of a sophisticated client. Everyone has its own taste, its own addictions, sometimes whims. Everyone wants something unusual and exclusive. But despite that, he loves his job, because he finds it very interesting to invent new forms. It's only difficult at the stage of design of a new jewelry, and then everything goes under the principle of clever hands make good job. Moreover, for every jeweler, it's important to be a good marketer, to know the laws of the market, to be guided by the needs of the public and not be mistaken, because otherwise you can waste your strength for nothing. One ring is made in 4 or 5 days, and it takes 1 week to prepare the kits. Therefore, I try to devote less time to silver products. Because in the end, I put the same forces on the manufacture of jewelry, whether from gold or silver, and I sell silver much cheaper. Therefore, most of all, I work with precious metals and stones. And now mainly in the sales trend. These are wedding sets, wedding rings, and bracelets. It should be noted that many modern jewelers still continue to create their work using traditional methods. They like it, and that's their principle. At the same time, the 21st century is here, and new technologies didn't bypass the jewelry industry. They're actively implemented and used, and it greatly simplifies the work of the masters. Therefore, on the market, more and more often, you can see samples that are manufactured using new methods. It's a switch device. Many jewelers solder parts of the product on fire. I'm using this equipment. The advantage is that it's possible to connect even the smallest parts much easier and faster.
Bundan yedik, bundan yapışdırırıq. Buna həm olur ki, iş vaxtı qaşlar falan.
For example, attaching stones to a ring was a very difficult process before. But this laser apparatus makes it possible to quickly and easily solder small ripples of the crown of stone. It's not surprising that jewelry is not only the object of attention of women, men are also fans of various jewelry. And if you look into history, it was they who were the first to wear all this beauty. Although interests and preferences changed over time, men succumbed to this weakness for women. But it would be wrong to say that they completely abandoned it. Gold or silver jewelry can often be seen on many representatives of the strongest sex of Azerbaijan.
Bizdə xanımlar ən çox istifadə edir qızıllar. Yəni bizdə kişilərimiz biraz qızıla az meylli olurlar.
I have a variety of wedding rings for men, and many of them are mostly without precious stones.
Bəylərimiz üçün də üzükləri var. Baxın.
Although there are rings with a diamond, a ruby, or an agate, but it doesn't suit everyone's taste. Some men love rings with large stones. It was no coincidence that Togrul Yunusov became a jeweler. From childhood, he saw his father working with gold, selling jewelry. There were other teachers, basically his father's friends, also jewelers. The young guy says that now working in this field has become much easier compared to what it was before. Sometimes he gets tired of work because it requires perseverance to be always attentive and focused on the product. But if you love your job, you can't retreat in any way, says the master. Therefore, every morning he wakes up with new ideas and a new mood. This is required by the profession, status, and desire to always be a creative person, moreover in demand, and part of this wonderful art. Every jeweler must love this art. You have to work first and foremost to make sure your product is flawless, neat and fine. And if you think only about money, there's hardly anything that can work out. Your products won't be in demand. And if you make each product with love, it will always find its customer. Fashion of a jeweler has always been considered interesting and honorable. Not everyone is given such a gift and talent. And there are those among them whom the public primarily calls artists, and all because their work is special and unique. There are those who are able to create small canvases from metal and stones, causing the audience delight and trepidation. And right now we will introduce you to one of these artists. He lives and works in Kazakhstan, but the fame of his masterpieces has traveled all over the world. He studied for a geologist. At the age of 30, he received a diploma of Candidate of Sciences issued by the Higher Certification Commission under the Council of Ministers of the USSR. From the age of 4 months, his parents began to take him to geological expeditions, so the smell of steppes and mountains is familiar to him since infancy. And generally, he could become a well-known geologist, open more than one fields to the world. But suddenly, for everyone, he became a jeweler. Years later, he recalls his choice like this.
И началось все, наверное, просто с жажды наживы.
It all started with the greed for profit. I mean, first of all, it's art. Second of all, I will become rich. But somehow a greed for profit has evolved into the greed for creativity. That's all. Why did my favorite Henri Matisse or Gauguin, who was a successful banker, why did both quit everything and went into art? That is inexplicable. Also, probably it's an adrenaline. Creativity is a constant adrenaline. And maybe I already have acquired some kind of adrenaline addiction. I don't know. In general, there are quite a lot of jewelers in Kazakhstan, but there are few of those who can safely be called artists, and all because they put creativity on the first place. The commercial component is important, but it's secondary. Therefore, you will never see two identical works of Mitrofansky you will never be able to purchase his work in a simple jewelry store.
В принципе, то, чем я занимаюсь.
In general, what I'm engaged in is not even jewelry art, and it's not arts and crafts. It's an attempt to make the finished work of art in metal. I hope it's a high art with its own philosophy, with unusual technology. All this attracts my attention also. Besides, I do not make identical works. I even make different earrings in one set.
Иногда очень сильно.
Our hero honestly admits that he considers himself as an impressionist. However, it's difficult to define the style of his art. And it's all because in a certain period, it can have features of constructivism, supremacism, then it can be transferred to the modern style of Alphonse Mucha, then it can be carried somewhere else under the influence of the creativity of famous artists, writers, poets, film directors, and musicians. At the same time, in his workshop, you will not see any sketch because he works directly with the material. He draws immediately on metal and gives it a shape.
Технологическая часть в ювелирном искусстве.
In general, the technological part of what I do is not very complicated. Of course, there are some complex technologies of fixing other things, but all this can be mastered. You have to be a little diligent, patient, and do not rush.
Неторопливость. То, как я паяю, в принципе, это может быть...
This is how I soldier. It doesn't quite combine with classic soldering technique, but it's more comfortable for me, and I don't really care how others feel about it.
Абсолютно все равно. Сейчас, естественно, не совсем понятно, что это будет.
Right now, it's not quite clear for the audience what it will be, but for me, it's quite clear. I already have a solution. One of the stages has already passed. A few more elements, and we will get a ring. Looking at the works of the jeweler artist, different metals and different raw materials that he uses catch the eye. The material is picked up under the template idea. I mean, something came to mind and then I pick up material in which it's going to be expressive. That's all. It doesn't matter what material to work with.
То есть мне все равно с каким материалом работать, но когда нужен желтый цвет.
When I need yellow, I use gold. Or when a gold product needs shadow, or I need to make it darker, I use silver. In general, there are no limits and boundaries for me. I make my own rules in my art.
Все законы своего творчества я придумываю сам. Ну и сейчас, в принципе, даже вот мне безумно нравится.
At the moment, I like the creative body of work of Henri Matisse and Georges Braque, and I use some of the elements of their paintings in my works. And I don't hide it. I even made a ring called The Cat That Looks at the Bird that Mr. George Braque painted. There's also a series of works, imitation of Matisse.
Попишу, да, это подражание.
At the same time, in all works of the Kazakh jeweler, there is one single motif.
В каждую работу я вкладываю какой-то смысл, потом в Инстаграме.
I put special meaning into my every work. Then I post it on Instagram and Facebook, and there its meaning is explained. But the main motive is joy. If a person wears my ring or pendant, it should not cause any negative emotions, actually.
Негативных эмоций в принципе.
He rarely uses stones in his works. He says that he has to do it sometimes in order to put some colorful point, but in general he believes that a good stone usually takes all the attention, and this in fact does not suit the master.
Давайте сейчас покажу несколько таких.
Let me show you some of my iconic works. Here, for example, this is called Ancient Talisman. I had series of works forgotten symbols, and this strange beast is the Scythian tattoos that were discovered on the mummies. I go back to the ancient things from time to time because it's interesting to process it somehow.
Периодически возвращаюсь именно к этим совсем древним вещам.
To the question of working with stones, a pendant called Life is a Miracle. In general, this is my illustration of America Sturic's film Life as a Miracle. I've watched this movie a few times. I really like this director. And here it is turquoise, like a symbol of a blue sky. You won't be able to convey something like this with an animal. And this stone is exactly what I needed.
Бирюза как кусочек синего неба. Эмалью это не передашь, а именно вот камень. Это дорога на Кашмир.
This is called A Road to Kashmir, an illustration of wonderful composition of the Led Zeppelin band, Kashmir. Here some bright spot was needed so you could make a point. Therefore, a red sapphire was chosen.
Сфинкс и зеленая луна.
Oh, here is the Sphinx green moon. I mean, there was a stone of jade and I wanted to do something with it. Why is green moon? Because the jade was green, and Sphinx is like a symbol of eternity, so I treated it as if it was sand-wrapped. By the way, it takes much more time to make it than if I just polish it. And this is coral, and coral is not modern but natural. My ex-wife had coral beads, she got them from her great-grandmother. And I took a couple of stones, and they turned into the work Forgotten Lighthouse. It's forgotten, nobody needs it. Nowadays there are GPS systems, GLONASS systems, and etc. That's why you don't need lighthouses. So it stands forgotten, but still it shines for someone. I don't know how well this will be seen about the combination of two metals, gold metal of two colors, red and yellow, and the substrate supposed to be black. That's why I chose silver.
И вообще вот с фильмами интересно.
And in general, interesting things happen to the films because when I watched Dead Man on Oleg Boretsky's big screen, although I watched it on TV before, after watching it, I made a ring of yellow, white, gold, and amethyst. Patricia Velasquez, a top model, Hollywood actress, arrived at the beauty contest. She saw the collection, and I called this work The Chronicle of One Trip. And I meant Blake's Travels. No one bought this ring for a long time. Everyone liked it, but nobody wanted to buy it. I was already thinking about rearranging it. Something was wrong with it.
Что-то не то. Она в него вцепилась.
But Velasquez said it was about her, and I talked to her in mixed English, Spanish, and Russian languages. There was an interpreter, and he helped us. And I kept quiet about the fact that I don't think it will suit her, and she stuck to it, like a baby seeing a toy. She said she was ready to give anything for it. This work was probably waiting for her. This is A Child in Time, a wonderful composition by the band Deep Purple. I won't sing it, I don't have sense of pitch. Well, those who know Deep Purple and its composition is clearly represented. This is about it. I always worked to music under the impression of films and books, and almost all of my works is an illustration. And these illustrations are in collections not only of Kazakhstani people, his work has spread around the world, and that's at least Europe, America, Australia, and Japan. Among fans of his talent, there are famous people such as writer Paulo Coelho, politician Irina Hakamada, actress Patricia Velasquez, rock musicians Konstantin Kinchev, Garik Sukachev, and others. And today Alexander is preparing for his next exhibition, at which he's ready to present something special and inimitable. This was the last story for today. I'd like to hope that all the information was presented to you was interesting and informative. We will see you soon in the new episodes of the program Colors of Asia. Therefore, see you very soon on Kazakh TV.